Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's tutorial, we're going to go ahead and create a simple application using ChatGPT. So recently ChatGPT has been all over the place with OpenAI and all the things that they have done. So we're going to build a simple application on top of the OpenAI API that they provide us with to use ChatGPT. So for example, for example, you say I have a sentence in here which it says, what is your name? And I just tell the AI to correct the sentence. If I press submit, you can see it has corrected the sentence. Previously you was now changed to yours. Okay, so if let me just say let's say that hello world in C++. Let's say hello world in C++ program. Okay, and then let's tell it to write the C++ code. So you say write C++ program. Okay, just write to C++ program, and I'm going to submit this, and it's going to make a request to the OpenAI API, and it's going to respond to. Let's see what the API the AI generates. So let's see, look at the output. So you can see that it actually generated a simple C++ program that prints hello world. So you can see it's actually very accurate. So we're going to be building this, and one more feature this also has, the ability to generate images. So let's say man on a horse, right, on the moon. Okay, so let's say man on a horse on the moon, and let's see what the AI generates. Now this is going to take a bit of time because the AI is going to make a request to the OpenAI API, which is going to generate the image and then finally send it back to us. So you can see now the image is generated, and let's give it some bit of time and let's it load, and let's see what we get back. It's taking a bit of time to generate the image. So let me just go ahead and refresh this page again, and let's try to generate an image. So just say Mars close to Earth, and just like that. And left from there, we can go ahead and just submit this again. Let's see what we get this time around. So I'm just click on the submit button. Let's give it some bit of time. It's going to make the request, and it's going to generate an image of Mars close to Earth. And let's see what image you get. So you can see this clearly looks like the planet Mars, and let's see what it generates. Okay, so yeah, that's what it generates. I don't know what image is this, but it looks kind of like, I don't know if these are plants on the planet. Yeah, but we're going to be building something like this. Okay, let's not waste much time talking about this. Let's just jump into the code. We're going to be using Node.js and Express to create this application. So to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and let me just close my terminal. So I'm just going to close the terminal, clear this up, and then from there I'm going to navigate one directory back. Navigate back one directory. I'm going to go into my folder called tutorials. So I'm going to change directory into my tutorials folder, and I'm going to make a directory called OpenAI ChatGPT. So I don't know, OpenAI project. Let's just call it OpenAI project, and I'm just going to press enter and then change directory into the OpenAI project. So once I'm inside there, I'm going to go ahead and say conda deactivate, and I'm going to deactivate the virtual environment. So once it's deactivated, I'm going to go ahead and open VS Code. So for example, let me just go ahead now and close my VS Code. Just close my VS Code and minimize this for now. So I'm going to go into my terminal and just simply type my VS Code and then press enter. So it's going to open up VS Code, and this we're going to go ahead and generate the application. So I'm just going to do npm init, just like this, and we run that. So we're just going to go ahead and press the name of the project. Just say OpenAI. Let's just press enter, and then enter. Yeah, just enter, and then out I'm going to use my name here. So once I have that, I'm going to press enter, and then we press yes, and then press enter. So good, we can see we have generated that the file of this. So let's just copy this and move it inside of here, so that we can have it in there. Okay, so good. So you can see we have the package.json file already generated. So once we have the package.json file generated, we need to install a couple of libraries. So we say npm install. I'm going to install Express. I'm going to install .env, and then .env for managing the env file, and then also going to install the OpenAI library. So I'm going to press enter, and it's going to go ahead and install for us all these three libraries. So let's give it some bit of time to install all the libraries. So let's give it some bit of time. Yeah, and those libraries are installed, and I also want to install npm install. So I'm going to say npm install, and I'm going to simply go ahead and say I'm going to simply go ahead and say we're going to install one more library. It's called nodemon, right? So nodemon can help us to run our server. So nodemon, and I'm going to save it as a dev dependency. So save -dev, and then simply press enter. So that's going to go ahead and save nodemon as a dev dependency. So let's just give it some bit of time for us for it to install that. And once it's installed, we are ready to go. So let's make sure it's installed. Yeah, we are done to go. So if you look in the package.json file, we can see we have all those dependencies and everything installed. Good. So once we have that, I'm going to go ahead and create a index.js file. So we say index.js file, and index.js file are going to go ahead and import express. So we say const express equals to require, and you're going to go ahead and require express. So great. Once you have express imported, I'm going to go ahead and create an express app. So I'm going to say const app, and this is going to be equals to express. Okay, so sorry for that. I'm going to say express. So once I have that generated, I'm now going to go ahead and simply start up the express server. So I'm going to go down here and say I'm going to go ahead and actually we can also have some ports, but for now let's just go ahead and start the express server. So I'm going to say app.listen. So I'm going to say app.listen. You're going to listen on port, and port is going to be a variable that we need. For now, let me just go ahead and type in port 5000, and then I'm going to go comma. I'm going to go ahead and pass in a function right here, and this is going to be I'm going to use an arrow function, and I'm just going to say console.log, and you're going to simply say server. Let me just use string literals here. So let me just say backticks, and I'm going to say server started or listening, server listening on let's say on port, and then I'm going to go ahead and specify the name of the port. So I'm going to say let's say for now let's go ahead and say port 5000, but later on we'll use a variable for this port 5000 for now. Okay, so once we have that done, we are ready to go. So let's go ahead and try to make sure that this actually runs. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to do, okay, let's write a start script in our package.json file to make sure that we are able to start up this. So I'm going to go into my package.json, and once I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and instead of your scripts, we're going to go ahead and write our own script. So the script you're going to be going ahead, you're going to run the dev script and also the start script. So I'm going to start the start, and I'm going to say start, and I'm going to go in here and just simply say delete this. And you're going to simply say node, and then you're going to say index. Okay, and then I'm going to go comma, and then I'm going to have another one. It's going to be the dev script, and the dev script you're simply going to go ahead and have node mon, and you're going to say index.js. So once we have index.that done, I'm going to go into my terminal, and I'm going to use npm the npm run dev. So that's like that, and simply run it. So you can see now we are running, but we have an issue right here. It says that app waiting for file changes starting. So we have an error right here, app.listen. Let's go ahead and see what error that is. So we said app, if you've created an app, this is going to be an instance of Express app rather. So once I have that done, and now you can see now the server is running on local on port 5000. So if you go to localhost at port 5000, the server should be running on that port. So good. So once you have our server started up, so my only mistake is I forgot to make this an object. Okay, so I didn't call the constructor. So I have to make this an object of the Express class. So good. So once I have that there, we are ready to go. So now what I want to go ahead and do, let's just quickly go ahead and set up a couple of things instead of here. So I'm going to create a .env file. So I'm going to go say .env, okay, and inside there we're going to say port, and port is going to be equals to, we're going to use port 5000. Okay, so port 5000, and I'm going to go in here and just import the .env file. So I'm going to the .env library that we just installed. So we say const .env equals to I'm going to simply say require, and I'm going to say this is going to be required .env, and I'm going to simply say .config, just like that, and we call that. So once we have that done, you're going to go ahead and simply load that port information. So I can use a semicolon if you want, but I mostly don't use semicolons, but let's just try to keep it using semicolons. Okay, so if I skip the semicolons, then forgive me. So I'm going to simply say app, and app is going to be equals to the process. We're going to say process.env. We're going to say port, which is the name of the variable that we call it. So we're going to say port, we're going to say we're going to use port 5000 basically. So whether we find it or we don't, you're going to use port 5000 anyway. So I'm going to go down here and simply use port, and also here I'm going to say use port right here. So in here I need to say port. So I'm going to say port, and in here let's not forget the $sign in front of it. So good. So once we have that done, I'm also going to go ahead and also I want to enable body parser inside of our app. So I'm going to go down here and you say body parser. So for the body parser, we're going to simply app.use. We're going to use a middleware. So we're going to use express.json, just like that, and simply call that. And you're also going to use app.use. You're going to simply use an express.url encoder, and then simply pass in some and an object here. We're going to simply say extended, and you're going to say extend is going to be of type true or false. Okay, so extend is going to be false. So once we have that done, we are good to go. So that's all we need. So for now, this is all we need for now, and this is where our app listens. So listen, so listening, just like that, and this is where we created our app. So create Let me just get that create app object. So good. So once we have that done, we are good to go. So here we are now. Let's go ahead and make sure that this is also running. Yeah, it's good. It's still running perfectly. So good. We have everything set up. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and create a folder rather. I'm going to create a router folder, a router, and I'm also going to create one for controller. So I'm going to use the kind of like the MVC structure. So I'm going to have controllers, and this is going to be router. You can call it route or routers. Anyway, it's fine. So we can just call it routes and not routes. Let me just rename this to be routes. Okay. So once we have that done, I'm going to go inside of my controller, and you're going to have a controller called, I'm going to have a controller in there. I'm going to have a controller called, you can call it anything you want, but I'm going to call mine open AI controller. Okay. So I'm going to say open AI controllers.js. So once I have that done, I'm going to go inside of this file, and you're going to write the code that it will enable us to get access uh, to make requests to the API, to the OpenAI API, to get to send data and to receive whatever the API generates. So that's why we installed OpenAI. So OpenAI library. So I'm going to say const, and I'm going to simply say I'm going to have the following saying config configuration. We're also going to have open API. So open API, just like that. Let me just create the OpenAI API. So OpenAI API, just like that. So OpenAI API, make sure I get that right. So once I have this, going to be equals to require, and you're going to go ahead and require the open API. So that's what we want to do. And once we have that, you're going to go ahead and simply say the configuration in here. So we need to have an API key to use the OpenAI APIs. So if I go back to, let me just go back into my browser, and I go into the official documentation of Open. So if you go to beta.openapi.com and you create an account over there, and you can just go into the documentation section, you can see all the things that you need to do. So I just have this one opened right here. Let me just try to find it right here. Here right here. So now you can see this is all we need to do to set things up. So if you read, you can read the instructions on everything you need to do. You can click on introduction, you can click on quick tutorials, and then you can see everything you need to do. Even if you're using Python, you can set this up in Python and all of that. So you can read the documentation and see that what you need to provide in order to use the OpenAI API. Okay. So once we have that done, I'm going to go ahead and just go into personal. If you go to personal, and then you go to view API keys, and then from there you can generate an API key. Okay. So go ahead and generate an API key. So I'm going to go click on generate API key, and I can simply generate an API key, and I'm going to simply copy that API key. So once I have that, I'm going to go into my VS Code, and I'm going to go into my .env file, and I'm going to go ahead and create a variable right here. So I'm going to say open API, open AI, and then I'm going to say underscore API underscore key. So I'm just going to say equals to, and I'm going to go ahead and simply paste what I've copied. So I'm just going to paste it right there. So this is my API key. So I'm going to delete this after this video. So if you try to copy mine, it might not work for you, because I might delete this. Okay, I'm actually going to delete it. Okay, so once I have this done, I can simply go ahead into my controller file, and instead of my controller file, I'm going to simply say const. I'm going to say configuration. So I'm going to say configuration, but make sure this is a small letter C. So I'm going to say configuration is going to be equals to, and I'm going to say new. I'm going to say configuration, and in here I'm going to go ahead and pass in. This is going to be a call, and you're going to pass in an object. So the first thing you need to go ahead and do is specify the API. So you can say API key. So in here I'm going to say API key, and you're saying API key is going to be equals to process, right? You're going to get it .env API key, right? So this is just going to get this from in here. So I'm going to simply copy this, go in here, and simply paste it in there. So good, that's what we need to do to get access to that API key. So good. So I'm going to go ahead and simply save that part of the code. So that's all we need to have that running. So good, that's all we need to have that running. So once I have this done, I'm going to go ahead down here, and I'm going to go ahead and actually make a request to this API. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is actually do the part where you're able to correct text, right? So if I go in this section, if I show you this again, so I want to first go ahead and write the part for this part where you're correcting the text. Actually, just stop the server, so we can't get access to it. But I'm going to simply say get, and then say get edit. Okay. And this is going to be an asynchronous function. An async function, I'm going to pass in the request and the response. And this is going to be an arrow function. So in here, I'm going to go in here and simply say const. And this is going to be input. You're going to take in two things from the request body. You expect this as passing an input and an input. sorry, let me get that right. So an input, and also we also want to get the instructions on what to do. So an input is basically what you want the program to do. An instruction is basically telling the API what you want to do. So I showed you earlier on, you saw the input field and also the instruction field. So basically that's it. So after that, you're going to go ahead and simply say request. You're going to get this from the request.body. So request.body. So good. So this will enable us to get access to whatever the user has passed in when making that request. So we're going to have a try and except block. So try and catch block right here. Try and catch block. So once I have this in here, I'm going to simply say const, and this is going to be response, right? We say response is going to be equals to await. You're going to await this process. So using any synchronous function. So we're going to say open AI dot, sorry, let me just get that right. So this is going to be open AI. So open AI dot, and you're going to, sorry, this autocomplete is really just bugging me. So open AI, and you're going to say dot, and you're going to simply say create edit, just like that. So we're going to say open AI dot create edit. So once we have this done, we also need to make an instance of OpenAI. So we need to go up here and just simply say const. We're going to say OpenAI, and it's going to be equals to OpenAI. And then you're going to go ahead and simply pass in the configuration which we have created. So configuration. So this OpenAI is what you are using right here. Okay, so I forgot to create the configuration. Actually create the object. So this is going to be actually new. Okay. So it's going to be new OpenAI, which is what you imported from the OpenAI library, and then you pass in the configuration, which you generated through the creating this configuration and passing in the API key. So once we have that done, you're saying await OpenAI.create edit, and then you're going to go in here, call this, and you're going to pass in you're going to pass in an object in here. Okay. So what does this object take? Taking the model, and the model you're just going to go ahead and use the text Da Vinci. So Da Vinci. Okay, so Da Vinci. So let me just get that right. So Da Vinci, and then you're going to go ahead and say hyphen edit hyphen 001. So just like that. So we're going to say text Da Vinci edit and then hyphen 001. So that's what we have. And I'm going to go down here and simply say input. And input is going to be the input that the user is going to provide in. And then the instruction is going to be the instruction that we want. So say instruction. So good. That's what we want to pass to the API. Okay, so once we have that, we can go ahead and handle any responses. So I'm going to go here and just end this, and down here I'm going to go and say response.status the status, and you're going to go ahead and state the status of 200. Okay, and then you're going to say you're going to go ahead and say .json. You're going to pass in the JSON data. So you're going to pass in, you're going to say success, and success is going to be equals to true, right? And you're also going to go ahead and pass in the message, and the message is what we get back from the API. So message is going to be response.data. So good. And you can find all this detail about all this on the official documentation if you go to OpenAI. So if you go in here, you can find information about all this. So if you go to text completion, you can find all this detail in here. So you just read the documentation, and all that information is included in here. So just go to beta.openai and then create an account, and then from there you can be able to see all this information. So good. You can read through it and be able to see all that. So let's say prompt design, let's say instructions. Yeah, you can read through it and basically all that. Okay, so I don't want to go into it. So basically you can see all that on the official documentation. Okay. Okay, so once I have that done, we're going to make a simple request API. The API is going to respond. You're going to get back the response data. Okay, good. So once we have that done, you can also go ahead and handle any error in case they occur. So we're going to go ahead and simply say if error dot response, if error dot response, you're going to go ahead and handle that. So we're going to simply say console dot log, and you can just console log it for now. We say error dot response dot status, just like that. And you're also going to go ahead and say console.log, and you're going to go ahead and log the error dot response dot data, just like that. So we also have that done. So else, we're going to go ahead and also have an else statement. So we're going to say else to handle something else. So else, we're going to go and handle the else block. We're going to say console.log, and then simply do an error dot message, just like that. Error dot message. That's all we want to do. So good. So once we have that done, we are ready to go. And in case any error occurs, we can go ahead and actually send a status. So rest dot status, and you're going to state a status of 400. Let's say 400 is bad request. Okay, and then you're going to say dot I'm going to actually send a JSON file. So dot JSON, and you're going to go ahead and send the JSON. You're going to simply say success is going to be false. Success is going to be of type false. False, let me get that right. So false, and you're also going to have the error. So the error is going to be something else. So the error is going to be going to simply say edit. Let's say edit not could not be generated. Let's say generated. Try again. So that's all I want to do. So that's all I want to do for that. So that's going to go ahead and handle the ability to generate text. So actually, let's make a call to this API. But before we can make a call to this API, we need to go inside of our routes folder. Inside of our routes folder, before we even go inside of our routes folder, we need to export this function that we just created. So I'm going to go down here and simply say module dot exports is going to be equals to, you're going to go ahead and simply export that function we just created. So get edit function. Okay, good. So once I have this done, I can simply go now into my routes folder. Instead of my routes folder, we can create a route that can call this endpoint. Okay. So instead of my route folder, I'm going to generate a file. I'm going to call this file. Let me just say I can call this file Open API routes. So I'm going to say Open API Open AI routes. So routes just like that .js. So inside here, I'm just going to say const, and I'm going to simply say router is going to be equals to require. I'm going to say express, right? Express dot router object, just like that. So once you instantiate that, you're also going to go ahead and actually get the function from the controller. So I'm going to say const. I'm going to say this is going to be, let's just the structure, just get edit. It's going to be equals to require, and you're going to say require dot forward slash controllers forward slash API routes, just like that. So once I have that, you're going to get access to the controllers. So now once you have access to the controllers, you can use them. So you can say router, this is going to be router dot this is going to be a post request. So if you go to router forward slash and you just make a request, and you're going to get the get edit router to handle that for you. So good, that's all we want to do. And from there, you can go ahead and actually export this route as well. So we're going to say export module dot exports. You're going to go ahead and say export. So we're going to export the router object. So good. So once we have that done, we are good to go. So once you have this done, we can go back into our index.js file, and instead of our index.js file, that's when you can actually go ahead and use this router, okay? Because now we've generated the router, which talks to the controller, which also wrote. So now we can go ahead and actually begin to use the router instead of our index.js file. So what you simply need to go ahead and do is simply go ahead up here. We can go ahead and create it up here. So we can just go ahead and say const, and this is going to be open API, open AI router. Just like that, is going to be equals to require. Okay, require, and you're going to what do you need to require? We need to require, I'm going to forward slash router, and then routes, and then forward slash, I'm going to simply say open API routes, just like that. So that's all we need, and I'm going to end this with a semicolon. So I can go ahead and simply use this middleware right here. So I can just go down here and simply say this is going to be router middleware. I mean, middleware is one word, so middleware, and we're just going to say app.use. You're going to simply say forward slash let me just go up here forward slash open I can just say open open AI, and then finally I can just go ahead and use that router. So let me just make this one to be lowercase. There's no point to make it uppercase, so I'm just going to say open AI router. Okay, good. That's all we need to do. So once I have this done, I can just go ahead and end this with a semicolon and make sure I save this code, and let's check if our server is running. Yeah, it is running. So now we can go into localhost at port 5000 /OpenAI, and then make a post request to the get control, which is going to make, we need to send input and a text instead of our body. So let's go ahead and just try to do that. So I have I think I have my Postman open up here. So I just went to ahead and simply go into Postman and just type in localhost at port 5000. So if you're localhost at port 5000, let me just try to zoom in so that you guys can see better. So if I go to view, and let me just say zoom in. So if I zoom in a couple of times, so good. I hope you guys can see right now. So I'm going to localhost at port 5000, and I'm going to make a post request. So I'm going to say a post request, and I'm going to go ahead and simply say body, and then make sure you click on the XWW form and URL encoder. And then in here, you need to pass in two fields, right? You need to pass in the input and also the instruction, because this is what you expect to be passed into the background, right? If you're expecting the input and also the instruction. So make sure you pass those two in, input and instruction. And input I just type in what your name. You can see this has a typo. And let's say we take the instruction is just to correct the error. So if I go ahead and simply send a request, now we get back an error says cannot post. So let's go ahead and see what the error is. So I'm just going to go in here and see it doesn't actually log anything. So it just says that you cannot send a post request. So this is localhost at port 5000 / I call it OpenAI if I'm not mistaken. So I call it OpenAI, and that's the name of the route we need to make a request to. So if I go back in here and let me just check this out again. So if I go in here, yeah, it's called OpenAI. So this is what you want to make a request to. This is AI, just like that. And let's try to make the request again. So good, we get back the result. You can see what your name, and it actually didn't do a good job in. Sometimes it makes an error, but let's try again. Let's say what's your name? Correct errors in text. Let's give it that instruction and let's make a request again. Let's see what the AI generates this time around. So it says correct. What's your name? So you can see it actually corrected the whole text. So we type what's your name, and it actually returns what's your name, right? So actually corrected the text successfully. So good. Now the get text correction text correction part works. So now the part that we need to do is actually get that to generate an image. So now let's go ahead and actually write the function to generate an image. So we go back into our controllers. Instead of our controllers, we're just going to write another function to generate image. So let me just go back in here and let's go into my controllers. And instead of my controllers, we need to write the function to generate an image. I'm going to keep it right down here. So I'm going to say const, and this const we're going to call it let's just call it get image. So get image, and it's going to be equals to the following. So it's going to be equals to anything function, and we're going to simply pass in a request and the response, right? So we're going to call this arrow function, and this arrow function we're going to simply go ahead and do is say const. So const, and const is going to be the following. So we're going to expect the user to pass in a prompt of what image the user wants to generate. So if you want to generate an image of the person on Mars, you want that text from you, right? So we're going to pass it in prompt, and you're going to get the text from the request.body. So we're going to destructure that and get it from the request.body. And if from there, we're going to go ahead and have a try and try and catch block. Okay, so actually Python, I mostly use Python, so I'm saying try and accept, but it's actually try and catch in JavaScript, right? So we're also going to go ahead and do say const. We're going to say response is going to be equals to await. You're going to await this process. You're going to say open AI dot create OpenAI.create image, just like that, and you're going to go ahead and pass in an object in here, and the object is going to have the prompt, and the prompt is going to be a prompt that we get from the user. And then finally you're going to go ahead and say number. You just want to generate one image. So if you want to generate 10 different images, you can pass in 10 different, because the AI can make a mistake in the first image. So if you have 10 different images, your chance of getting the image that you want actually high, but you're just going to generate one in this case. And you can go ahead and specify the size. So the size, I just want the size to be 124 by 124. So by 124, so I'm going to choose X and then 124. This will be a string. So I'm just going to make sure that this is in form of is in quotes, right? So yeah, that's the image size I want to generate. And if you go back to official documentation, you can see the different image sizes. Okay, so you can take a look at it, but I just want to keep this tutorial simple as much as possible, short as much as possible, so you can actually go ahead and look at it in your own free time. So I'm going to say image. I'm going to say image URL. The image you're going to get is going to be equals to the response dot data, and you're going to go ahead and simply get the response out. So we're going to say 10 dot URL. So this is going to go ahead and get us the URL. So once you have the URL, you can actually send it to the front end. So we're going to say JSON status of 200, everything was okay, and then say JSON, and we say passing a JSON object right here. So we're going to say success. So success is going to be false. Success is going to be true because it actually went through. And then finally, we're going to generate the image URL. And the image URL is going to be the following. So image URL is going to say the image URL that we just got right from up here. So good, we're going to pass in that image URL and we're going to send to the front end. In case there's any error, again, we handle that error. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this error part right here. And just go ahead and simply copy it and paste it here. So good, that's all I want to do. And hit Control and S to save that. So once that's done, you can also go ahead and get image, right? So you can actually export that get image function and go into our controllers and also import it from here. So you can say get image and also pass it in here. So this is gonna be router dot let's say post, and it's gonna be / image. Let me just look and see. I think I should call it image basically. Or what do you think? What do you think we should call it? Basically, just I don't know. Let's call it generate image. That makes more sense, right? So you can say generate image, and then finally we just go ahead and call the controller that handles that, go get image, just like that. So we have the image get image controller that handles that specific route. So good, well, we are good to go. So let's go and actually make sure that this actually works. So let's go into let me just go into my postman and simply test this out. So this is going to be OpenAI / let's say get generate generate let me just make sure I move the mouse, the cursor, so I can see generate hyphen image. So with what you need to pass in here is just the prompt, right? So I'm just going to disable this, and I'm going to pass in the prompt, and the prompt is going to be image of man on Mars. So I have that done. So I'm going to go ahead and simply click on execute. So make sure again this is a post request. So once I click on send, let's wait and see what the AI generates. Okay. Okay, the AI generates an image URL, so I can simply go ahead and simply copy this image URL, and I can just I think I can just click on control and click, and that's going to go ahead and follow that URL for us. So you can see now it has generated the image of man on Mars, hopefully. So let's see what the AI has generated. It's because it's a big image, so it takes a bit of time to load. So let's see if actually, okay, it got the planet right, and also there is a man on the planet. So that's completely generated by the AI. So the man looks a bit weird, but it looks a bit strange. But yeah, that's it. Man on Mars. So we can see everything now works as we expect it to. So now we have done everything, and what we need to do right now is just to build the front end. So to build the front end, we have to do a couple of things. So we need to go and actually create a public folder. So I'm going to go in here and just create a folder. I'm going to call this folder public, just like that. And now, how do we make sure that we can use this public folder? So I'm going to go inside of my index, and so instead of my index.js file, that's where I go ahead and set with the public folder, okay, the static folder. So we're going to need to go ahead and set up the static middleware. So static middleware. So just like static middleware, and what you need to go ahead and do here, you need to say app dot use, and you need to go ahead and simply say express.static, and you need to go ahead and pass in the path. So you need to import paths. Let me just go up here and let's import path. So you need to say const path equals to require. They're going to require path. Okay, so once I have that, I'm going to save. So I'm going to go down here and simply go and use it, just to say path.join, and I'm going to simply join the underscore the draw name. I'm going to join that with public folder, because our folder is called public, right? And that's where we're going to keep all our public content. So good. So once I have that, I'm going to simply save that. And then in here, we're going to go into our public folder, and in our public folder, that's when you can create the different HTML, JavaScript files, and other CSS files that is going to be used in the public, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and actually copy this from my GitHub page, and the link is going to be in the description below, so that I don't waste a lot of time with this. So let me just go into my GitHub page, and I go into my publics folder, and this all is going to be already published. So I'm going to actually pull up this and share with you. So let me just get this information. So I'm going to go into my index folder. So index file, rather, index.html file. And in here, you can go actually get the code that you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy everything from in here. So let me just scroll down here, and I'm going to copy everything in here. Copy everything. I'm going to simply copy it and go back in here. Once I'm in here, I'm going to create a file in here. I'm going to call it index.js. So sorry, index.html. So I'm going to rename that and change the extension to HTML. So once I have that, I'm going to simply go ahead and paste the code that we copied in here. So I have Bootstrap, or I'm using Bootstrap CDN. You can see now I need to create a JS folder, which has a file called getEdit. So I'm going to create a folder of JS folder. So I'm going to create that folder in here. I'm going to call it JS, and it need to have a file called getEdit. So I'm going to go ahead and create this file, which is going to be getEdit.js. So what does this getEdit.js file contains? And you can actually go ahead and find that file on my GitHub page. The link is going to be in the description. So getEdit file, and you can see this is a file that we have in there. So this is the file, just makes a request to the API, waits for the API, and to look like has a bootstrap button that displays some loading information and all that. Simply just makes a request to the OpenAI, and then simply makes a post request, passing the input and the instruction, and get back that instruction. And then that's all we simply do. And we also add an event listener here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, because I don't want to waste your time. You can find all this on my GitHub page. Okay, so I'm going to paste that in there. So once I have this done, let's actually go ahead and try to make a request to this endpoint on the front end and see if it works. Okay, so let's check the server is running. So I'm going to go in here where the image is, I'm just going to go ahead and make localhost at port 5000. Okay, and just press enter. So now you can see the form here works perfectly. So if I go ahead and say hello world program in C++. So if I go here and just say write a C++ program, let's make a submit. So let's just give it some time and let's see what the AI generates. So you can see right here, now we have the hello world program being written in C++. So good. Everything works as we expect it to. So good. Now the only part left is the part where we can generate an image, right? We can generate an image. And what we need to do is actually create another file in here. And let me see it from my GitHub page. What is the name of this file? The name of this file, I think, is called get image. So get image.js file. Okay, we need this file here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy everything in here, and this is all available on my GitHub page. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and copy. This is just some JavaScript file to make, like, to load the buttons, to display loading of buttons when you're making a request to the API. The only part you need, well, the only important part is when you're making the request to the API. The other part is just as displaying like loaders and other stuff. So I'm just going to copy this and just go in and inside of my Git, my folder here, and I'm going to simply call it. I think I call it get image, just like that, .js. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this file in here. And we also need the one HTML file to handle this. So let me just go back in here into my public folder. And you also go ahead and if I go, you can see you need get image.html file. So I'm going to go ahead and simply copy this as well. So I'm going to simply copy this as well. It's just it's just simple HTML with some place where you can display the image and for a form for the user typing the stuff in the navigation bar. Oh, I got all this code from GitHub, from Bootstrap. I just modified it to use case. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a file in here. It's called getimage.html. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and paste the code in there. Good, we have that done. So let's go ahead and see what else we need. So I think that's all we need for now. Yeah, that's all we need for now. Okay, so I'm going to go in here into our front end, and I'm going to click this link right here, and you can see it works. So just say man on Mars in a car. So let's say man on Mars in a car. We submit that, and let's see what the AI generates. So just submit that and give it some time, because the image is a huge image. So just give it some time. Okay, you can see now we have the image right here, and let's see what we get from the image. It's taking a bit of time. Let's just give it some time. So it should be man on Mars in a car. I hope it doesn't give us a Tesla. Okay, let's see what we get. Okay, that's a bit strange, but yeah, that's Mars, the planet Mars in the background, and then the AI generated a car. I don't know which car is this, but even the man is just made of silver or some iron. Yeah, so that's basically what the app is all about. So I hope you guys will enjoy this tutorial so far. Again, the code and everything is on the GitHub page. If you want to get the front end of the code, it's all on GitHub page. So that's basically how you can use OpenAI, interactive OpenAI and ChatGPT and everything that's going around. So trendy. I hope you guys can build some good applications from this. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Again, if you're new to the channel, one way you can support the channel, the simplest way is simply by liking this video, sharing this content with anyone who you think might find it helpful, and also you can support me by buying me coffee. The links will be in the description. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Keep safe.